Hi everyone, my name is John. For my speech, I decided to do a little depiction on formal, informal, and non-formal forms of education. This is something that I chose to do just because I have experience on both sides of things. Spent a lot of time working in multiple different career fields and also in college and secondary school. So I have seen the difference and the benefits of both. Um, but how many of you are already working in your long-term desired fields? Have you researched the job requirements for that job? Because every job has completely different requirements, education, schooling, experience, all things of that nature, and they're all very important. The purpose of this speech is to inform everyone about the positive impact, the negative impact, and the examples of each of these forms of education in our daily lives that we might not even realize. Um, I have a quote here that I decided to mention because it hits home with me, and it's by B.F. Skinner, and it says, "Education is what survives when what has been learned has already been forgotten." And I like that because to me, the true form of education is what retains with you, that you bring with you throughout your life. I'll go ahead and define some of these terms just to clarify things ahead of time. For formal education, it's the structured education system that runs from primary and in some countries from nursery school to university. And it includes specialized programs for vocational, technical, and professional training. Non-formal education is defined as planned, structured programs and processes of personal and social education for young people designed to improve a range of skills and competencies outside of formal education curriculum. Informal education is defined as unplanned and spontaneous learning of behaviors, norms, and values, which typically occur outside of formal school. Um, and I want to explain that every career has different requirements. So depending on what field you may be going into, some formal or non-formal education is actually more important. For a lot of the jobs that I've done throughout my life, the on-the-job training, the actual technical skills, and the non-formal side of things is really where you will succeed at your job. And formal education has always helped me through that as well. Um, I chose this topic just because of the current time of the job market and the economy and the ever-changing professional expectations. It's become more competitive than ever, and I think this is the time where people really need to crack down on education and really put themselves ahead of others in order to get their desired job. Um, I'll go into a little bit of what each of them look like and the multiple examples of each one. I'll explain the specific benefits of non-formal, formal, and informal education. And following this presentation, I'd like to do answer questions and get back to any of you if you have any input on anything that I've talked about or mentioned. Um, I'll go into the first one. So, formal education. It's a classroom instruction, online learning, structured labs, seminars, lectures, things of that nature. Something that is very formal and it's often associated with uniforms, certificates, degrees, things of that nature. And your coursework is generally under some time constraint and is graded. And that's the type of structured, organized curriculum that the teaching is done by qualified candidates. They have to pass certain standards in schools to be part of that program and to be a teacher. And everything's graded and chronological, the learning and the grading system. The impact of that would be individuals tend to have more opportunities with higher level jobs because of formal education, and there's a way to track what you've learned and your skill sets. And it also gives students a better overall approach to knowledge, and it covers the main skills that are applicable for most jobs. The negatives of formal education is every student learns differently, and some may have a hard time retaining or remaining focused on tedious book work, and I'm one of those people. It can be costly and not always accessible to the average public, depending on what school you're going to, whether it's public or private. It can also cause a lot of stress and anxiety among students due to the time constraints and the formal exams, which is something that I struggle with as well. Informal education looks like a parent teaching their child how to cook, reading books or magazines, learning how to hit a baseball, learning magic tricks. No fixed curriculum, no general grading system or timed expectations. The impact of informal education would be the learner tends to develop a better relationship with the teacher and has more interest in what material that they're learning just because of the more personal teaching methods. Since the form of learning is interest driven, that retention is actually a lot higher with informal education. The disadvantages of informal education is the possibility of an unqualified teacher, inconsistent results due to the abundance of varying factors, and the learner also might not be able to be taught by someone that's professional that really knows what they're doing. Um, Aside from that, non-formal education, which is different from informal education due to it's still very structured and organized, and sometimes it's even graded, but it's not inside of a curriculum, school, things of that nature. So with non-formal education, an example would be um, book clubs, swimming class, guitar lessons, or learning to cook by an experienced individual. Something that's professional environment that you are being taught by someone that's qualified. It just might not be in a school, a classroom, some type of formal education environment. The impact of non-formal education would be most people as of 25 years of age or older actually have the highest retention rate of any education forms, which is seen a lot with non-formal education post college, where people just want to learn more in their field or in something else. Um, it's more practical skills based, and it's vital to learning for careers that require physical skills or practice motions like welding or sewing. The disadvantages of non-formal education are it's difficult to evaluate. There's lack of testing, so it's hard to gauge where your students are at in the learning process and what they've retained. It can also vary greatly among learners, teachers, due to the light regulations of it. The education that's gained in non-formal education is not always credible, and um, not all jobs look at that as something that they are okay with, that they might want a formal education with a degree, something of that sort. Throughout my presentation, I've given an overview of the different forms of education, and I anticipate everyone in this class focusing on these forms that mostly apply to their career path throughout the remainder of their schooling. All three of the education forms are important, and each one will play a role in your professional and personal life in the future. Quality education is valuable no matter what form it takes. A formal education will assist you in getting a higher level job and will give you a step ahead with organizations and discipline when it comes to learning, retaining, dispersing literature or knowledge. An informal education will assist you in developing hands on skills, developing relationships with coworkers, supervisors. A non formal education is a great way to continue being a lifelong learner without the constraints of structured, formal, graded coursework with timing expectations. Um, I hope that this clarified some of the different forms of learning for you. If I could suggest anything to my other classmates, it is to learn everything you can from the people around you. Everyone around you that has experience is a great resource, and to take advantage of that. I have also added a visual presentation below this. Thanks.